Hey everybody, my name is Hayne and I am a massive horror fan. And if you've happened to come across this video, you probably are too. For as long as I can remember, I've been obsessed with monsters and cryptids, and eventually that grew to include psycho killers and slashers and the darkness that sort of envelops us every time we watch a horror film. And as I got older, that appreciation for things that were unsettling or macabre just continued to grow. Unfortunately, growing right alongside that appreciation was lifelong mental illness. That's a lot to lay on people right out the gate, I get that, but I feel like if we're open with each other, we can help each other, and potentially help to remove some of the stigma surrounding mental illness. And I know what you're probably thinking, that if I'm that mentally unwell, the last thing that I need to be exposed to is horror. I would like to respectfully disagree, and I want to explain why. My official diagnosis is dysthymic disorder, which is more commonly known as persistent depressive disorder, which in my case is lifelong. I also have severe anxiety disorder, CPTSD, and passive self-unaliving ideation. Despite the lack of an official diagnosis, the mental health care professionals that help me manage my brain are all in agreement that I'm also on the autism spectrum. These are all issues that I've learned to manage and cope with over the years through really hard work and extensive therapy that I continue today. But the one that I really want to talk about is the one that I actually managed to beat: agoraphobia. There was a period of 5 years where I could not leave my house. I couldn't even go onto my front porch. And if something happened and I did have to go out into the world, I had to have someone with me that I trusted implicitly. And God forbid I got separated from them, I would immediately go into a catastrophic panic attack. They had to remain within my line of sight at all times. But even if the journey to the outside world went perfectly, without a hitch, it would still take me days to physically and mentally recover from the stress of being out in the open and around people. I finally got so tired of living that way that I decided to seek help for the 50 millionth time in my life. And it just so happened that this time it worked. And I was able to find a therapist that fit with me really, really well. So after we started treatment and I started making progress, I ended up volunteering at a place where I had a friend and felt safe and comfortable because I knew he had my back, and gave myself a sort of exposure therapy through doing that. And eventually I got to the point where I was so comfortable I could take on shifts myself. And from there, things continued to progress until we were eventually able to remove agoraphobia from my diagnosis. So what does any of that have to do with horror? Well, because from the time I was a small kid, horror was how I was able to process all of my emotions and my trauma. And it was how I was able to conceptualize the struggles of people that were different from me. And throughout this entire process, horror was what made me reevaluate my treatment and put things into perspective and give me vocabulary to communicate what was going on with me effectively. What separates horror from other genres of film, what makes it so incredibly divisive between people that love it or people that hate it, and ultimately what positions it to be such a great medium for personal change, is the fact that it's allowed to be raw. It doesn't have the same restrictions that are placed on it that comedies or dramas do. It's allowed to be dark. It doesn't have boundaries. And when you're dealing with a topic as devastating as mental illness and its effects, sometimes that's needed. Not everything can be shot beautifully and wrapped up in a neat bow. Sometimes we have to see the blood and the guts in order for us to really connect to it, because that's what we're feeling. Horror films aren't effective because of jump scares or because of special effects. They're effective because they touch on our vulnerabilities. We relate to those characters, whether it's the final girl or it's the goofy sidekick or even if it's the villain. We wonder what we would do in their shoes. And it forces us to ask really uncomfortable questions about ourselves and about the world around us, which, frankly, is terrifying. We're given a sense of catharsis when we see a scene play out in front of us that matches the intensity of what's going on inside our head. I believe that when viewed through the right lens, horror becomes more than just something that makes you squirm. I believe it can help you learn more about yourself, more about your struggles, more about the world around you. I am not a mental health care professional, and I will never claim to be one. What I am is a person that has spent their entire life fighting their own brain. And what I suggest in the videos that I'll be posting is in no way a replacement for therapy, but rather it's a way I found of viewing this material that helped me to better understand myself and explain these things to my loved ones and to the people that could help me. So I thought maybe it could help others as well. My intention is to go over one film per video and help break down themes that might be helpful to someone that's going through a similar situation but doesn't really know how to process it or articulate it. And a lot of what I'm saying will probably be very common sense stuff, but every once in a while, when you're in a really bad place, sometimes you need a third party to step in and tell you what you already know. That's what I'm here for. I also hope that in doing this, some insight can be gained by the loved ones of people that are struggling, and that through this, maybe they can learn how to better understand and support the people that they love that are having a difficult time. This is not a critique channel. You're not going to like every film that I talk about. I know for a fact I'm not going to like every film that I talk about, but someone out there does. And if it can be used to help a person that needs it, I want to talk about it. And if I do my job correctly, they'll never know that I don't like it. For all of human existence, fear has been key to our survival. It's a primal instinct that we have in order to keep us safe. Despite the fact that we have true horrors that loom over us, we still find ourselves seeking out fear to entertain us. I believe that fear can be more than our natural warning system or something to occupy us. I believe that we can use it to gain a better understanding of ourselves, each other, and the world around us. Because when you get to the bottom of a fear and you figure it out, you're closer to finding a solution. I believe that we can use it to live better lives. So thank you for watching. Live in fear.